Hello, this is a Donoram podcast. I am Bo.
And I am Don.
And we're your hosts. We've never identified ourselves as your host, but that should be obvious. Speaking
You're parasites living within us.
Speaking of things that should be obvious, if you want to know anything about nursing, we again strongly suggest checking out Ashley Luann K on Instagram. The links, you know where to find them. They're in the description of the videos. And honestly, it is a great resource. I would not endorse a product I didn't believe in. And what's that? Yeah, an article in the New York Times. So my wife actually checked out this Instagram. My wife's been working as a nurse for 5 years, and it is an excellent resource. We do strongly suggest you check that out. In fact, if we ever get a sponsorship from Ranch Dressing, Don, do you like ranch?
I can learn to.
Okay, guys, I can't, so you'll have to endorse it. But anyway, something I can strongly endorse, and that is the greatest video game ever made that we weren't willing to play through again to do this podcast, and that is Xenogears.
Yeah, I'm not a young man anymore. Anyway, today, in a very special episode of Xenogears, Ramses goes to dear old dad, and, he asks Emperor Cain why nobody likes him, apart from a Super Sentai group of hot anime girls, and to a more nefarious extent, Miang.
Why do I have all this amazing crap, but I still don't feel satisfied?
Cain throws on the red aura, which means somebody touched the thermostat. He's not to be messed with right now. Ramses says, hey, if you didn't exist, seems to be the solution to all of Ramses' imagined problems.
If these people just weren't ever born,
I would be, it would be better for me. So Cain and Ramses are in the middle of a weird floating art gallery / throne room. It's kind of hard to, you don't really know where they are.
No one seems to be standing on anything.
Yeah, it's like there's floating in a void.
A classic JRPG thing, actually. Yeah. There's a lot of people walking on things that aren't there.
So Krellian shows up and says, hey, Ramses, you were built to kill Cain. And Cain's like, Krellian, surely you're not on their side.
Man?
Yeah. Like, apparently, the Evil Co. has a lot of different sides and factions.
What's the Dr. Evil organization? What's it called?
Oh, I don't know.
What was his company? No,
Viacom.
I think they bought Viacom.
Yeah, yes, that's right. That was the joke from the 90s.
Yeah,
90s was such a good time. Like, your childhood is a good time in general.
It's like you have an inside if you grew up in the 90s, like you have an inside joke with billions of people.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's fantastic.
Until your generation becomes irrelevant, which like the Zoomers are going to have, like, hey, remember the early aughts? Yeah, there was 9/11. It was a really bad time. I was going through puberty. That sucked.
It wasn't that bad. We got Final Fantasy X.
That's true. You did. Okay. The Zoomers are all right. So Krellian's like, oh, really? Now, I don't care about a group of old geezers who are so obsessed with clinging to their dear little lives that they had to resort to turning themselves into data to survive.
Just be like me and never die.
Yeah.
That's what Krellian's thinking. Like, I'm not going to explain how I haven't died.
It's just your existence obstructs me from reaching my goal. That's the only reason I want you dead, Cain. And Cain says, look, Krellian, when I hired you as a brash young man, I hired you to help humans live longer, healthier lives within the confines of an oppressive hierarchical system. Because the entrenched interests of the elites are more likely to hand power to barbarous nationalists if challenged by outright revolution. So I'm trying to do the best I'm working within the system, okay? And then Krellian's like, well, when I joined this firm as a brash young man, well, I told to myself, now, brash young man, don't get any ideas. Well, it worked, and I haven't had one in years. I play it my own way. However I want it, I call it A-OK. Ramses, kill him. Ramses, kill him. Kill the Emperor, Ramses. Ramses stabs the Emperor in the face and knocks off his mask. It reveals a black void that just kind of fades. And, well, I'm sure the Gazelle Ministry will lead the remains of Solaris back to greatness now that old man establishment is gone. The Gazelle Ministry promptly mock Cain for not joining them and becoming a computer program. And also the Anima Relics have awakened. They've aligned with their respective animus And they start name-dropping a lot of weird names that don't really have any relevance to the modern storyline. Dan, Joseph, Gad, each have aligned with their surface dweller as their animus. Hyuga's Asher, Ramses's Zebulun, Krelian's Judah, Sophia's Dinah, Reuben, Simeon, Levi.
The sons of Jacob.
Yes.
The 12 tribes of
Yes.
Israel. So we're going straight into allegory. It's been I mean, it's not been so well muted in this so far, but now we're just absolutely blowing the
all those, they were aligned already 500 years ago. And finally, Groff's Naphtali. All the anima relics have been activated. The identity of the persona, Mask of the Mother, has also become clear. Now is the time to open the door to God's domain, to attain the fleshly body and the wisdom of God. Now humans extol the awakening of God.
And all they had to do was kill Cain. Why did that take so long?
Because, they needed to get Ramses to do it.
I mean, he's been clinically depressed his whole life. How hard could it be?
I don't know. So, with absolutely no fanfare, the key goes into the keyhole in the floor of the room where the Gazelle Ministry have been hanging out this whole time. Daddy Emperor is now dead, so they can stay up as late as they want.
And use the key.
Yep, and the key has been used. Back to Faye, he is sitting in a chair explaining what would have no doubt been a very fun or infuriating gameplay segment. It turns out that all the people who had turned to mutants and then been healed, and even those who had missed out on the last round of free mutations, are now mutating again. And they're calling out. They're crying. They're howling at nothing. That was because Ramses had been manipulated into assassinating the Emperor. Now, with nothing holding them back, the Ministry had put the Geisha key into effect, which is altering these people who had been destined by God. Once humans have filled the earth, God will awaken from his long sleep, and the awakening of Mahan, the paradise in the sky, will soon follow. Now, the true meaning of what the Ministry had spoken, the nature of the legend, was at last being realized. This is what they meant when they said, once humans have filled the earth. Eventually, Mahan, the resting place of God, woke from its long sleep. Yeah, it's all yada, yada, yada. There was an ancient starship, or part of one, and it is now rising from the ocean, draped in a millennia of seaweed. And we now cut to Faye and friends and Ellie, who have been told to, and they're telling Ellie to remain behind. We're going to go to God's resting place and put a stop to this. Faye says, look, this isn't like any other fight. It's a battle for the wisdom created by God. Girls aren't allowed. It's life or death. Whoever controls this becomes the true dominator of the world. And it's obvious the Ministry will bring all their heaviest hitters. There is no guarantee you'll come back alive. And Ellie's like, I'm still your strongest ether power user, and I've killed thousands. Yes, but you've had a lot of character development since then. You're practically a saint for all these mutated people, of which there are many now. And, you know, do you really have it in you to kill all the people who are just enthralled by the Ministry right now? I mean, do you really think you could get through with that, which causes Ellie to run off crying? At which point, the entire party starts lambasting you for chastising Ellie too much. Bart says, dude, you went a little too far. Saiten's like, well, we can't blame Ellie for not wanting to come. And Faye makes that actually a pretty valid point. Look, the remaining humans and sentient mutants in Nisan and Ignis see her as something akin to Christ for us.
Right, a messianic figure.
And they have just seen the world's most messed up rapture. They really, really need Ellie.
What exactly happened?
Everyone turned into mutants again. And they
all the people that had been healed reverted.
Almost everyone.
Almost everyone.
Like, there are some still in Nisan, but everyone who had been destined by God have started migrating towards God's resting place.
Okay, so all the mutants are going towards the Eldritch, and the Eldritch is rising from the sea.
Yes.
And even a lot of the people that were cured or were better are now mutants again.
Because the Geisha key has called out, and they are awakening to their destined genetic purpose.
So there's like 8 humans left.
Yeah. There is a population in Nisan, but it's very small.
And that's the only place in the world there are still humans?
There are presumably other humans, but they're really isolated right now.
And we don't have as of yet.
There are still humans running around, but a lot of the population are mutants heading off to their destiny.
And we, as of yet, do not have any explanation
As
for
to
why.
exactly what's going on. Yeah.
As to why there's still humans that haven't mutated yet. Why they haven't been chosen by God.
Yeah.
Okay.
And Margie, Billy, and Bart are all insisting that, Faye, you're being incredibly dense about why Ellie wants to go with you.
Dude, she likes you, man.
Like,
literally the biggest event in history is going on, and they're like, dude, she's checking you out, bro. Don't be shy. You know it's my own ma. You got to kiss the girl.
Now, in Faye's defense, the last time he had an awkward love interest, he accidentally killed her. So, it's like Bart says, dude, you're crazy about her. We all know it. Even Emeralda's over there talking about it. So, now, like, the only gameplay you've had for a good long while is now just walking around and hearing from all of your party members why you should go talk to Ellie. Even Choo Choo is telling you to go let her feelings out.
Choo need to tell her how Choo feels.
Look, Faye, I mean, if things don't work out, you know I'm right here. Like,
oh, that's right. Choo Choo has a thing for Faye the entire game, yeah.
And Rico tells Faye, I don't know much about this kind of thing, but Hammer used to tell me to be nice to women.
I didn't listen to him, of course. I still yelled at him and spilled beer on him.
That was before he became bound to a gear and we had to kill him. So Faye and Ellie head down to one of the bunk rooms. I think it might actually be Rico's room on the ship they're hanging out on. And they let it all out. Faye says, well, now for the first time, people on Earth and Solaris are becoming one. But then not all of them are strong like the crew of the ship or the people of Shavat. We lose sight of our future at times. You have to imagine what the regular people are going through, and that's why they need someone like you to depend on, a light to guide us. You freed the hearts of the people, and Ellie, it was you. It was all you, and now your body just doesn't belong to you anymore. You need to be here. You have responsibilities.
Wow. Okay.
And Ellie's like, we used to be enemies, but now we're together like this. In the beginning, I think I saw myself in you. We seemed to overlap. You being in a similar situation I was in. When I was with you, I didn't feel alone or apprehensive. That's why I thought I liked you. But it wasn't that. I simply didn't have the courage to look at my true self. I turned to you to run away from it all. I thought I mistook that for love. But nope. They are very clearly in love. They both know it. Ellie insists that she go because she has this feeling that if he leaves, she's never going to see him again.
Aw.
And if he leaves without her, she feels that something is coming that's going to go wrong. Something bad is coming. She has a feeling about it.
Aw.
Yeah. Faye tells Ellie that she is the reason that he can keep Id under control, and he wants her to live so that he has something to come back to. So after an entire disc of gameplay and starting into the end game, Faye finally gets to first base with a classy anime cutscene kiss. And yeah, okay, so then it cuts to the next morning. Ellie is naked under the sheets in bed asleep. So, yep, Faye gives her a pendant, and this pendant's actually important, as it's what he had on him when he came to Lahan.
Isn't it what Sophia has in the painting?
Yes. She also has that pendant.
Mm-hmm.
And he doesn't know what it means at the time. He just knows that he had it on him when he was brought unconscious to Lahan. So later that day, Ellie has agreed to stay, and so has Margie because she doesn't have a gear.
I guess I'll stay.
Yeah, Margie says she's frustrated that she can't go into the limited gameplay of this game because, earlier in the game, she held off an entire army by herself with a gunshot wound. But, that was a long time ago. Ellie...
Some characters have grown, others have reverted. You can't help it.
And Ellie tells Margie, we should work to help those here because there are a lot of people that really need help right now, and most of the people with character portraits are gone. They went out to kill God or something. I don't know.
Something weird like that.
Yeah. And then Margie says, Ellie, you must be the reincarnation of Sophia, given that you are apparently very well versed in the teachings of Nissan despite growing up a Solarian. And Ellie doesn't deny it because she's having more and more flashbacks to past lives. Meanwhile, Faye leads a dramatic attack on the planet's new floating continent, Mahan, the resting place of God.
Oh, so the Eldritch is the size of a continent.
Yes, pretty much. Through the rust and the seaweed, you can clearly see Eldridge stenciled on the side. I just lost my place. Yeah, okay. Solarian forces have claimed the facility, but in a brutal, dramatic, and wicked cool off-screen battle, our heroes triumph. Faye
I can just see like the director of the game making all this stuff and like printing and everything, and like the SquareSoft executives just being like, "You do know that Final Fantasy VIII is like next year, right? We don't have this money."
It's that scene in the Spice Girls where there's like, and then we ramp the bus off this drawbridge as it's rising up. That'll be expensive, not necessarily. It's just a cardboard cutout of a bridge. So yeah, Faye starts throwing out plot words at us. Yep, this is the ship that crashed 10,000 years ago. It brought humanity here, and whatever this god is. We get some interesting wording thrown at us because they're exploring the ship, and Faye is just like spouting things that are coming to him.
Now, is this gameplay yet?
Kinda. You're walking through. Faye is kind of narrating you through it. Seeking God and His divine wisdom. Raziel's tree, we proceeded further. Recall the opening cutscene with the technobabble. One of the helmsmen on the ship is saying, like, the sirens are blaring, and she said, and the girl at the computer says, Alpha 1 to Raziel Central, access confirmed, initializing fake net, disconnected, activating emergency shelter, denied. So Raziel is a computer on the ship. Faye and the party come across an alien form in stasis, and it exudes fear on a primal level. It immediately wakes up, as these things tend to do in JRPG, and attacks. So you have a proper boss fight with Deus. It's mostly a gimmick boss because you have to hold out against it because it has this healing ability. And but if you build up your death blows enough, you can get it out in one hit.
Deus, by the way, is Latin for God. So
Yeah.
the symbolism there. So it's interesting to know that this is such a simple, nondescript fight.
It's a fairly simple fight.
No fanfare leading into it. This is what Faye's destined to do: kill God.
A lesser game would have this be the end.
That's basically what I'm saying. Yeah, it's interesting to note that you finally got to what everything in this game has been leading to, and
even Faye is vaguely disappointed because this clearly is not the final boss.
Right.
You come across a mountain, like a giant cavern, big enough to house the capital city of Ave, in the Eldridge. And Faye determines that there are there's two yellow holographs floating in the chamber, and the computer is called Raziel. Satan immediately takes point on dicking around with this ancient computer. And Raziel, of course, is the keeper of secrets in the Jewish mysticism.
Oh,
the angel,
that's right.
The keeper of secrets.
Yeah.
So Satan's all over that. And Satan discovers, and Satan starts telling you what he's figuring out. Okay, this was the mothership carrying a massive weapon, Malak, angel, God's army across the universe.
Malak or Molech?
Malak.
Okay.
An interplanetary invasion system. That's what the Gazelle Ministry is after. That rotten thing we just fought was the reduced, decomposed bioorganic nucleus of this system. Satan sees a reference to something called the Zohar, the central neural circuit,
the power
and power source controlling the system.
Grab's like getting out of bed, putting his shoes on. Someone talking about it. I know they are.
Like he's lying flat on his back, and then he immediately 90-degree
the
angle.
Bela Lugosi.
Power. Did somebody say power? Power. Okay, so just time out. Mm-hmm. A lot of plot. So the Eldridge, it's just the Eldridge. It's not anything special. It's just a ship.
A big spaceship.
A big human ship that is transporting something. And it unleashes drones called angels to wipe out life forms on a planet capable of mounting resistance. Raziel is a data bank. And that rotten thing we just killed is some kind of biomechanical nucleus holding the whole thing together. We don't know what the Zohar is. It's a separate thingy that produces incalculable power.
But Groff has mentioned the Zohar before.
Yes.
Yes. So Groff knows a lot.
And
because
good.
this thing just rose from the sea and everyone else is finding out
Everyone's
about this crap.
just like racing to figure it out, and he knows. and good thing he's here. So is Crowley.
Because someone mentioned the power.
Oh, thank God. Oh, good. Someone's here to explain this. Oh, crap, it's him.
And he's got Krellian with him?
Oh, this is bad. This is a bad combination. Krellian tells Faye that the hidden data of Raziel's tree is far too complex for an illogical person like him to understand. Groff is about to throw down.
We need to start doing Ben Shapiro voice, but it's too late. Dang it.
Groff is about to throw down, apparently at Krellian's behest. He's apparently working with Krellian, or at least his excuse to fight Faye. And Seitan looks at this Mexican standoff developing. Okay, two of the most powerful, the most powerful person and the smartest, deadliest person. Like Krellian's like my antithesis. He's my antagonist. I can take him. There's this Mexican standoff.
He's Saruman.
There's this
to
big,
Seitan's Gandalf.
There's this big. There's a big. It's time for a showdown. It's time for Seitan to stand up. He's got his gear. He's got his sword. This is going to be dangerous. It's going to be dangerous. Okay, Faye, here's the plan. If you guys can protect my vacant Omni gear, that'd be swell. I am going to keep checking this computer for data and set it to self-destruct. Spoilers, he does not learn anything, nor does he prevent Krellian from taking it. He's inventing jobs for himself that don't involve fighting. It's not right up there with telling people to walk away from the fire. But it's up there.
It's pretty bad.
Fire burn!
Real quick, before we get into anything else, Faye at this point is aware of his past lives.
Yes, he knows.
He knows all about Lacan, or he doesn't know all about them. He just
not
knows
all
that he
about
had them.
but he's getting a lot of information. It's not synthesized right now.
Okay.
So back to let's see. So Faye and Bart are now on their own. You guys, I think you might be able to bring someone other than Bart, but come on, you gotta hang with the bro.
Oh yeah.
You square off with Groff, who is piloting Alpha Weltall or OG Weltall. It has 100,000 health point HP. It's a textbook unwinnable fight, in the sense that even if you win, you lose. You can use Wild Smile by Bart to reduce his ability to insta-kill you, and theoretically, if with luck, take him down.
Really?
Yes.
But it doesn't change
It doesn't
the story
change the
outcome.
story.
So you might as well just lose rather than waste
Yeah.
items and resources.
And the thing is, if you do beat him, if you have the traitor card from Hammer, he will drop the Slayer robe, which is the best armor in the game if you're on foot. Spoiler, you're not going to be on foot for much of the rest of this game.
Right.
So yeah, you could just easily just let the story happen as it's meant to happen.
Right.
And let Groff kill you. Well, not kill you, but
Beat
you
you.
lose.
Yeah.
So Groff rubs some salt on the wounds by asking Faye if he's frustrated that he keeps losing. Well, you keep losing, Faye, because you're imperfect. The absence of wrath is an impediment holding you back. Remember back in Lahan when you entered Weltall and it responded to you? Yeah, when you saw Timothy die and it released its full power, I'm going to draw out id and take you to the limit, baby.
Push it to the limit. The limit. Living on the razor's edge.
Krellian tells Groff to stop. Faye is bait. Don't kill the bait. Groff shrugs and wanders away. Krellian tells his men to crucify the party. In the land of Golgotha, not Golgotha, Golgotha.
I wonder if that was named that way because they were shy about. I wonder if that was the point where they're like, you know what?
Maybe, I
Let's
don't know.
shy about. But anyway, because it's similar enough. But anyway, and is the actual order to crucify? I don't remember
Crucify them.
that.
Yes.
Okay.
So Faye is back to narrating. Well, just talking. Like, that's where you're wrong, Krellian. You think you're holding all the cards, but you didn't factor in Seitan Azuki. Actually, I'm lying. He's not narrating. This is something I just put in. He's been at the controls this whole time. He speaks a dozen languages, knows every local custom. He'll blend in, disappear. You'll never see him again. With any luck, he's got the Zohar already. He's got the power of God, and then Citan's like, "Hi, Faye." Oh, hi, hi, Citan. Oh, well, might give up. Might give up.
Faye, we should think of something. Might give up.
Meanwhile, Ellie is doing her best to make the chicken embryos that used to be humans comfortable. Margie has come to commiserate and recognizes Faye's pendant as the pendant of Nissan. She asks why Ellie has it. Margie says that when Ellie wears that, she looks a lot like Sophia.
It's literally the Superman thing.
Yeah.
Clark, take off those glasses again.
Ellie says, anyway, we need to hurry up and test the new mutation suppressant assembler on the other people here. We can't afford to have them change further.
The MSA.
Yeah.
Test that MSA, baby.
Then Ellie feels a great tremor in the force. She immediately goes to Shavat to find out what's wrong and receives a transmission from Krellian. He wants her in exchange for the lives of her friends. So she leaves in that one Omni gear that only she can use.
It's Dagobah.
Yeah. And heads off to the rescue. And
everything Star Wars.
Ellie's former Solarian crew try to talk her out of it, but
they are not very effectual speakers.
Yeah.
They are just, man, they might as well just shut up.
Yeah, they're just like something. They're like the militia for like Nissan at this point.
Hey, I wish you wouldn't do that. Oh, you're doing. You know what?
Okay.
Never mind. You're your own person.
Anyway, now it's worth noting that this Omni gear that Ellie is driving that is the one that Sophia drove during the time of Roni Fatima 500 years ago to face down, and now she's going out to face Krellian. Meanwhile, all the other parties' gears have been literally crucified, just on giant crosses. Okay, that's dramatic. That's dramatic.
It's very dramatic.
Just machines. The people themselves are just in the cockpit. They're a little uncomfortable, but come on. It's not that big a deal. Camera pans over and you see Choo Choo crucified. Nails through the arms.
Oh,
Choo Choo
man.
died for our sins. Choo died for Choo sins.
Wow.
It's just there. Like,
Wow.
blink and you'll miss it, but Choo Choo was crucified because she doesn't have a gear. She's just herself.
Yeah.
So
She's tough. She can handle it.
Faye and Citan tell Ellie to run, that Krellian cannot be trusted, but she decides to throw down with Krellian's two most powerful creations. One of these, Rattan, was the gear human fusion that was just observing in Zebulun when you found Emeralda. And then he says, hey, yeah, well, you can take her. We don't need her anymore. And after all, she is your daughter, Faye. Yeah, he's not just dropping like exposition now. He's actually fighting, and he's a pretty tough fight. So Ellie destroys both enemies, but then Rattan and his partner Gear keep getting up, and it actually drags out for like several minutes of just it's a giant robot version of the fight from They Live. Put on the glasses, Ellie.
You're gonna eat from that trash can, Ellie. Zizek's favorite part of the game.
Then Ellie refuses to go down. She unleashes a huge power geyser that kills the Krellian's crew. Faye and Citan are suddenly free and on foot, and they rush to Ellie. But Krellian is intrigued that her true awakening has occurred, or perhaps she was merely protecting her master. Doesn't matter. This is the mother existence I want. This is the mother existence that I want. So Groff shows up, interferes with Faye's attempt to rescue Ellie, and Krellian makes off with her and says, "Why don't you just wallow there pathetically while you meditate on your lack of power?"
Krellian says that?
Yeah, Krellian says it. And Groff's sitting there laughing. He's right, you know.
Yeah. I like the cut of this guy's jib.
Faye wonders why he's being allowed to live. Well,
are the gears down?
Yeah, I think the gears are down, but right now they're on foot.
Okay.
Krellian goes back to the Gazelle Ministry. Like Faye and the party are literally being allowed to go, pretty much.
Because Krellian has what he wants.
Yeah, and he has other plans for them, apparently. So Krellian goes back to the Gazelle Ministry, who are just giddy that the Anima and Animus have been obtained. Now, all they had to do is upload themselves into the party's bodies and become one with the mother persona. Then Krellian says, nope, and starts deleting them from the memory.
So who's the Anima and Animus?
The Anima...
Is it Faye and Ellie?
I think it's all the party members.
Because anima and animus is the Jungian concept of the inner female and the inner male, correct?
Yes. I think we'll actually get like a monologue specifically talking about that later.
Yeah.
But the Gazelle Ministry were literally going to, like all the party members you have in that one computer were compatible with anima relics as the animus.
So the Gazelle Ministry could take their bodies and leave cyberspace.
Yeah, one of them gets Rico, one of them gets Satan, yada, yada, yada.
Okay, and
they think that's what's going to happen.
They need Ellie for that. Or so
Yeah,
they think. But
yeah.
Krellian's like, not so fast.
Nope. He starts deleting them. He only needed them to activate the geisha key. And now
Then why'd he wait this long? This guy, you know what? I don't remember, but I'm going to guess that his flair for the dramatic will be his downfall.
Maybe. Well, now that Kane is gone, there's nobody capable of standing against Krellian. Krellian says he was the one person who had total control of the people and thus was my greatest nemesis. But the only person who could truly terminate Kane was Kane himself. That's why I created a copy of Kane. Ramses acted exactly as I predicted, killing Kane. There is no one who can stop me. And I'm not interested in your power or authority. Did you really think you were acting of your own free will? You're just parts of the system, baby.
Ring-a-ding-ding. Makes the layers swing.
Created as weapons of invasion and oppression. You're just terminal interface weapons. The Gazelle Ministry talk about becoming God and about how they're so close to becoming God.
As they're being deleted.
Yeah. Krellian says, look, you're just men. Men cannot become God. Just submit to God. And the last minister to be deleted says that without them, there's no way to rebuild God. And Krellian says, oh, it can be done. Your genes are still scattered your genes were still scattered in order to keep the world alive after the fall and the days of destruction. Those genes live on today with the humans, the anima vessels, the recipients of their alignment, the animus, and also the persona. By combining these with my nanomachines, humans will become living beings very much the equivalent of you. Actually, they will far surpass you, becoming worthy terminal interfaces for God. So you know you're no longer of any use to me or God. Deus, the physical manifestation of God, only wants results. The means are insignificant to him. This is my arc plan, my project, Noah.
So the bad guys seem to have one thing is they don't seem to understand the science behind what they're talking about. It all seems to be religious zealotry.
Yes.
Like
at some point,
when they
were told this, and they very much believed it.
So even Krellian, a man who destroys with facts and logic, even it's not that he because Satan just learned Deus is a bioweapon made for invasions, but these people don't believe that. They do believe that it's God, and they're going to resurrect this God.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
The Gazelle Ministry especially. But Krellian, he's operating on a slightly higher level. He has his own plans, and
that we will see soon.
Yes. And I don't know how much time exactly has transpired.
Adam, you want to take a moment from Rogue Squadron to tell us?
Yeah, he's playing Rogue Squadron over there.
It took him like a half an hour to find an N64 with a expansion pack.
30 minutes? Okay, well, let's go straight into the podcasting.
Okay.
Because Faye is podcasting. He's back in his chair, and he's talking about how he was powerless to save Ellie. And then Wise Man shows up to guest star in the podcasting studio to ask Faye while he's throwing why he is throwing a pity
Does
party.
he actually walk up to the chair and sit down
I
with
think
him?
he's like Faye is sitting in a chair and you see Faye behind him in the void of the PowerPoint, and Wise Man's there.
Yeah.
And then you have that weird dialogue.
Wise Man being Faye's pop.
Yes.
Yes.
You won't be able to defeat him like that, Faye, as long as you continue fighting with that attitude.
You know, son, one thing I never accomplished was getting anything done while being a sissy.
You were depending too much on the power of your machine. Do you think Groff's source of power is his machine, his technique, his experience? No. It's his feelings. It's his heart. He's dominated by resentment and hatred of the world. That hatred is his power. Your feelings weren't focused enough to fight off Groff. That's why you can't win. Your feelings must be in the right place. That is strength. And then Wise Man says, Ellie had only one desire, to save you, and she managed to do that. Now it's your turn. So Faye begins looking across the world for Ellie, which would probably be a really good time to dump the player back into the world map to explore, wind down from momentous events. But we're on disc 2. We have to make sure that Squall's gun sword looks cool.
Right.
Anyway,
no mirror needs more budget for zippers.
Yeah. 2 weeks later, the party tracks down Krellian to the Ark that he's been building, Merkava, using nanomachines and the plans from the Raziel computer that Satan failed to destroy again. Mm-hmm. The party PowerPoints their way to the giant floating fortress. Like, okay, here we were here, then we were here, we're on our way here. So while they're outside,
we parked in Goofy.
Yeah, while we're out, like they're about to enter Merkava, and they encounter the elements. But don't worry, they don't have the budget for a boss fight anymore. Dominion's like, don't get any ideas. We're just here to help our commander. Miang and Krellian have been manipulating his emotions for the sole purpose of eliminating the Emperor. We simply want to free him from those bonds so he may be saved. It's not for you, it's not for the world, or for your girlfriend, Ellie. So after a most assuredly kick-ass fight against the drones and denizens of Krellian's awesome god arc that we don't get to see, the party finds a hologram version of the angels from Nissan's cathedral, which is an interesting addition because everything else is completely sci-fi functional. That's something that Krellian put there for some reason.
Huh.
A perfect replica of the angels from Nissan's cathedral. It might be a hint to Krellian's past that he bothered to decorate like that, you know, considering there was a blue-haired version of himself who hung out in Nissan once upon a time.
Right.
And Ramses is here, too. And he says, you, Faye, you and me, right now. Mano a mano. Now we get to Ramses' backstories. He was born in a nanoreactor to be the best, the very best, the best there ever was. Meanwhile, Karen, Faye's mom. Yeah, she is there. This is a flashback. Krellian's still a fetus in a tank. And
Krellian is?
Yeah, not Krellian.
Ramses.
Yeah, Krellian's there looking at this thing in the nanoreactor, and he says, the Emperor, I told the Emperor Ramses was being built as an artificial contact. Also, it can totally hear and understand us, so be sure to leave an emotional scar.
Oh my good heavens, I'm glad you said something. I was going to just walk away saying nothing.
Yeah. Karen looks at the fetus in the little tank and says, let's kill it. I have a baby named Faye. And he like sticks her face to the glass and says Faye, like breathes on it, and then writes it Faye. And according to my research, my kid is the contact. Therefore, this thing is worthless.
You know, those the pride of a mother, the pride of a mother.
Yeah. Karen and Krellian's like, so a corresponding antitype is probably already out there. So if the contact's out there, then the antitype is out there somewhere. We'll find her.
So Krellian was not only buds with Faye's distant ancestors, but also Faye's parents.
Yeah, immediate parents.
So Krellian has been...
He's around.
He's been all over Faye's ancestry.
Yeah, I guess we don't need this thing in the tank. Point and laugh at the nanoreactor fetus, everyone.
Yeah, Nelson Muntz. Oh, I wish my son was here. He could do a perfect one.
Yeah, Karen says, keep chasing it, boy. A love that's unattainable for you, no matter how hard you pursue it. And Faye's like, whoa.
Wow.
Ramses, you knew my mom? Which is actually the line in the game. Which is the most tone-deaf thing I have ever seen. And I love it. Dude,
you knew my mom. Was she good at basketball? Because I'm good at basketball, and Wise Man's never mentioned basketball.
So then the Dominia and the Elements show up, and they tell Ramses that he's just being used.
You're being used, man.
He doesn't want to hear it, though. So
why would he?
You have to fight him in the Omni Gear, and you beat him again. Mm-hmm. But it turns out Krellian's got Ellie crucified in front of a giant mass of something. There's a big kind of organic mass at Merkava, God's Ark. And Ellie is right there in front of it. Krellian says, I would have liked to be able to commend you for making it here, but your efforts are all in vain. The resurrection of Deus is imminent. Sacrificing this girl will bring about the awakening of God. Faye has objections.
Now, hold on a minute. Now, you hold your horses, Krellian. That's my girlfriend you got up there, mister.
But then Miang shows up in a serpentine omni gear of her own and says, adieu, boys.
Does she say that?
Yes, adieu, boys. You can actually see the gear in Krellian's lab back on Etrinak if you look hard enough. But you bring down Miang, and she says, well, I have nanomachine healing. So, and I also have an attack dog with a built-in force field. And Krellian's like, psst.
Well, we got a dinosaur that eats force fields.
So, and then Krellian's like, she's like Cell from Dragon Ball Z. You have to atomize her, otherwise she's just going to keep coming back. But actually, it turns out you don't have to do that. Faye realizes that this thing in front of that Ellie is standing in front of, well, being crucified in front of, is the new Deus trying to merge with its constituent parts, because all the anima relics in the party are being drawn into it. And Ellie is also a part of God, which is why Krellian brought her here.
So this mass is God, and it's about to consume everything present.
Yeah, their gears aren't working right now because this thing is powering up. Krellian and Miang start talking about how humans are only here to serve as parts for God, or reunite God with various parts scattered in the accident 10,000 years ago. Faye and party are now without a gear, and they're facing down Krellian and Miang,
who have a gear.
Yes.
Each.
But they're not in it right now, but yeah. Ramses, though, he shows up, and he says, what about me? What's my purpose? And Miang has a very, 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 very long monologue. Cain's will had become much too like that of the humans. He was too concerned about him. He'd forgotten his mission to revive God. That's why you were created. You were only made to remove our main hindrance. Cain had absolute power. To make you turn on Cain, it was necessary to focus your mind on a single point. However, being an artificial life form, you were mentally unstable, which is why we used Faye's existence, resentment, to power you. You've excelled superbly at fulfilling our expectations, but we don't really have any use for you. Haven't you realized that yet? You're a piece of trash. And being the reject that you are, why don't you just leave? Ramses falls to his knees. Miang dramatically tells Faye and friends that they will be rewarded for returning the anima relics and by being sacrificed along with Ellie to become one with God. Ramses says, oh, to hell with that, and stabs Miang. And Miang thanks Ramses as she's dying, explaining that she couldn't kill herself due to fate. Ramses ponders exactly what that means.
That doesn't make any sense.
Miang can't kill herself, which actually is a plot point.
Okay.
It's like when Cain can't. Only Cain could kill Cain, but he won't because he's Cain. She's special in that way.
Mm.
So it's worth noting that whatever you say about Ramses, he's killed Emperor Cain, Miang, and he also stabs Krellian. So he's getting stuff done.
He doesn't kill Krellian, he just stabs him.
Yeah, he just stabs
Krellian's
him.
got some thick plot armor, as we've seen in the past.
So all the other party members that you didn't bring with you show up on scene, and Rico's like apologizing. Oh, sorry we're late. Our Omni Gears gave out on us, and Steve didn't want to get his truck dirty towing him.
So I called Al, and he's got the tow cable, but you know how he is about that pretty boy truck.
Yeah.
I keep telling him.
So he's like, oh, wow, Miang and Krellian are both dead. Good job, guys. The party get Ellie down from her cross, and we enter a cutscene. Ellie pulls out a gun and shoots Faye. It looks a lot like the time in the forest,
Right.
where they were explicitly enemies, and she didn't shoot.
And I know that everyone that hasn't played Xenogears right now listening to the podcast is like, what? But there's actually a plot twist because Ellie goes, this isn't the real Faye.
Yeah. Yeah. He's an android.
He's an android.
Actually, there is a plot twist. It's just not that. Billy says, sorry, guys, she took my gun.
His friend just got shot. He's like, well, doggone it, guys. She took my
bad.
That's my bad.
And Bart's like, so is she brainwashed again? Or And Krellian gets back up from his sword wound. Nope, I'm sorry.
Hang on, let me explain.
Nanomachines, son. I'm pretty much all nanomachines now. Designed to live forever, or at least long enough to unify with Mother. And, by the way, Ramses couldn't kill me. And Slayton's like, unify with Mother. Usually I info dump at a time like this, but I have no idea what you're saying. So, Ellie starts talking. Yes, I am the mother of all humans. Yeah, I know I shot Faye, and he's confused, and you're all really out of sorts right now, so allow me to explain. This is Deus, what you call God, an interplanetary invasion system built by humans from another planet. It was created as an automatic weapon which could act upon its own will to take control of a targeted planet. But you should have known this much from looking at the Roseo records. Anyway, during a test run, Deus became uncontrollable. It released its power and annihilated a whole planet. The creators of Deus found its immeasurable power to be too much of a threat and forcibly shut it down. In order to analyze the cause of the problem, its core was dismantled and placed on an interplanetary immigrant passenger ship to be transported to another planet. Becoming aware of this, the disassembled Deus resisted. It tried to take over the passenger ship that was transporting it. However, as a last line of defense against the escape of Deus, its creators unexpectedly destroyed the whole ship, sending it crashing to this planet. Deus knew that it would not be able to get away from the explosion or the imminent impact, so it detached its core from the Zohar power reactor. Yes, Zohar. It is what drives all gears on this planet. It is the master generator that transmits its energy to the slave generators in our gears. It is also the source of all ether power that the inhabitants of this planet utilize. By utilizing the energy displacements caused by actualizing potential future... Zohar modifier has the ability to produce infinite amounts of energy. And Slayton's like, wait, so all the energy that powers our gears comes from this thing? Yep. The core was detached from Zohar, the biological computer, Kadami. It crashed on this planet. It activated Persona, its life support plant, which could generate organic material. Using this, it prepared for itself a genetic-based system for the day when Deus would be resurrected. Thus, the first humans were created from there. Emperor Cain and the elders of the Gazelle Ministry. Do you know why the Gazelle Ministry desired the anima relics and your bodies? Well, there's a reason. Before becoming human, the bodies of the ministry were once part of the organic elements of the core circuit that made up Deus. There were two types of organic elements. The female type was the anima, while the male type was the animus.
There it is. Yep.
They were created with the added ability to become mobile weapons by merging with machinery. In other words, those Omnigears you were using were one form of such weapon. The ministry, which were animus, were to become one again with their separated anima at the time of the resurrection of God. But in a war 500 years ago, they lost their physical bodies. It was then they decided to extract their own genetic factor from certain individuals of their descendants who carried the appropriate sets of DNA so each of them could become one with their respective anima again.
So the Gazelle Ministry's descendants.
Yes. Bart says, so wait, we're descendants of Cain and the Gazelle Ministry? And Slayton's like, and all the people of the world were created for the sole purpose of resurrecting God? Ellie's like, yep, more than half of God is organic. We need mutant parts to replace what's broken. Krellian also helped by substituting nanomachines when humans weren't producing the right genetic material. I am Miang, the keeper of time. In the cutscene, Ellie's hair goes from orange to purple. The representative of our god, Deus. I was born to guide the people toward the path of the resurrection of Deus. You're limited in your ability to understand. Miang's factor lives within all women. The one who transcends the generations, the caretaker of humans. When the previous one dies, somewhere, another Miang is awakened. It is programmed into all women's DNA to be that way. Who inherits this duty is a matter of probability. The Miang over there and I are the same existence. We are all parts of Deus, all caretakers of humans. Slayton asks, Ellie, why did it have to be you? Why didn't Miang just merge with Deus before? And Krellian says, oh, she wasn't the true Miang. We needed Ellie. Ellie tells Krellian it's time to go to destroy all civilization on this planet. Why? Because God might see the remaining humans and demi-humans here as a threat. Ellie is programmed to act that way by Miang, because Miang is there to do what God wants.
Mm-hmm.
Ellie and Krellian stroll into the mass of Deus, that giant gelatinous mass. Ellie stops and wishes Faye a happy awakening. Faye hops into Weltall to try to intervene. He gets kind of sucked into it as well, but it's too late. Merkava has already taken flight, and it fires a doom laser across the planet, destroying most of the surface. Seitan gets his turn in the podcasting chair. We got away, and then Deus started hunting down the destined humans that contained its parts to absorb them. It killed everyone else to prevent them from being a threat. The planet's surface was devastated. God also sent out seraphs, the angels. You might also call them diabolos, if you want to call them that. We did manage to find Faye, but he had lost consciousness after diving into Deus after Ellie. Shavat, or what's left of it, put Faye in a carbonite freeze to prevent Id from reawakening, and Queen Zephyr explains why. Okay, so this is a little awkward. See, Shavat instigated a battle 500 years ago to gain our independence from Solaris. However, we became overcome with a lust for power. Fearing that the war-torn people's will would no longer be with Shavat, but with the Nasan Mother, and that the people would organize under Sophia instead of the Council of Elders on Shavat, we decided to make a deal with Solaris. At the time, Solaris, or the Gazelle Ministry, were at odds with a woman who held the real power behind the scenes. Essentially, Shavat organizes the Nasan rebels along with Sophia into an unwinnable battle and abandon them. In exchange, Shavat gets Miang, custody of Miang, and they get to share rulership over the surface with Solaris.
Oh, this is huge.
Yeah. Interestingly, Zephyr appears to have been with the trapped rebels, so she wasn't in the leadership when this happens.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, she wasn't in on the whole thing, but she's still a part of the organization, so she feels guilty.
She's still complicit. Yeah.
She was one of the companions of Roni Fatima and Sophia during that whole thing. Anyway, she is hanging out. She tells Seitan that she was there with Roni Fatima, Sophia / Ellie, Lacan, and Krellian. Surrounded on all sides, we were prepared to die, and then the rebel forces' flagship appeared, with Sophia on board. She sacrificed herself so as to create a path for our retreat. Sophia's ship headed straight for the enemy's main ship on a suicide attack. However, her death forever changed the fate of 2 men. Krellian, who followed her closely as the leader of Nasan's militia, completely lost faith after calling out to a god who would not respond. He said, "I will create God with my own hands." Lacan, who resented himself for not having the power to do anything while Ellie died in front of him, began a search for legendary power. Essentially, Lacan went in search of the Zohar, lost all faith in humanity, and became Graf.
How did he know about the Zohar, though? That's the big question.
Yeah, that's a question. It's almost like he has some connection to it. It was Graf, of course, who ushered in the Diablos incident at the end of that war, which caused all the problems.
Right.
Faye and Lacan are the same person as Graf, just different iterations. Our betrayal would be an awkward subject if he finds out about it, so we're keeping him on ice. And yeah, that would be
right.
Just end it there.
We'll end it there. We'll pick back up. Things are certainly getting exciting, Don.
Yeah.
So
Ellie's Miang.
And I love that Miang's like it's
God's
a matter.
Back.
I like that it's a matter of probability where Miang goes next, except for now.
Yeah, it's right.
Except for now,
Ellie's right there. She is the antitype.
But so Lacan and Graf are the exact same person.
Yes, different iterations of the same person, but yeah, exactly the same.
The Faye is a descendant of the same person.
Yep.
So when Melchior was talking to Lacan earlier, he must have been talking
to Graf?
Maybe? Or Faye?
I don't know.
And remember, we still don't have a solid explanation of that music box.
All questions will eventually be answered, though.
No, that's what I'm saying. That's what's great about this game is JRPGs in the 90s were great at giving little kernels of information along the way that all added up at the end, but I don't think any game does it as well as Xenogears, even with the awkward second disc.
Absolutely.
The reason I left with all these questions that we still don't have answers for, if you want answers to these questions, be sure to subscribe, click the bell. That makes your phone tell you that we're live again. If you liked it, give it a like. Even if you didn't, it costs you nothing to give it a like. Don't be a jerk. And even if you didn't, give your friends a chance to like this. They'll love it. Share it out. And at the end of the day, I guess what I want to say is maybe the god we killed was the friends we made along the way.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.